What if you finally cracked the code of financial freedom as a dad? Like you went all in on a business and it actually worked. The money was rolling in, and you knew that you and your family were going to be set for the rest of your lives. But in the process of that pursuit, your wife decides to leave you and take your son with her. All because the business that you were so busy pursuing was keeping you absent from being there for the family you were doing this for in the first place. Many dads tend to start an entrepreneurial journey either right before or after they become dads. It's almost like we feel this immense pressure to figure something out fast because your family needs you to provide for them. We get caught up wanting to provide them with an abundance of money instead of providing them with a present husband and father. What's going on, fellas? Welcome to Alpha Dad Consulting. I am your host, Vidal. And on this show, we focus on empowering the everyday family man to become an effective family leader. We do this by sharing tactics, strategies, resources, and conversations with incredible men that are playing this family leader game at a high level. On this episode, I had the honor and privilege of interviewing a multi-millionaire family man who has impacted the lives of many people through all of the many products and services he's developed over the years, Dan Henry. Dan is the owner of GetClients.com, a company that specializes in teaching people how to build successful online businesses. He is the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Digital Millionaire Secrets, a renowned speaker who has shared stages with men like Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Myron Golden, and many more. Dan is also a popular YouTuber who has a channel where he shares some of his best insights when it comes to business and marketing. Currently, he runs an online community called Get Clients University, where he shares literally some of the best online business tactics and strategies out there. His no-nonsense, brutally honest approach makes him a standout in the online entrepreneur world. It's one of the biggest things I appreciate about him. But given all of his accomplishments, Dan hasn't had it easy by any stretch. He lost the most important thing in his life while pursuing all of these goals, and that was his family. And on this episode, we dive into how that happened and what it took for him to get his family back and return to the world of entrepreneurship a much stronger family leader. Let's go.
I can see the enemy approaching the battleground. Hear the drums pound like a thunder sound loud. I gather up my crowd to prepare them for what's coming. We've been summoned.
All right, Mr. Dan Henry. Sir, I want to welcome you to Alpha Dad Consulting. It is an honor for me to have you here because I've been watching your stuff for quite some time, man. So thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
All right, brother. Well, usually we'll start out with, what's your background and what was your childhood like and all that. But with you, man, I wanted to start a little bit. I wanted to start somewhere different. I want to start kind of with this current version of you, man. And how would you, in your own words, describe the Dan Henry that you see in the mirror today? And, what do you believe your purpose is, man, with the work that you're doing and the business that you're in?
Well, if you look, every man, most men start out with this idea in their head of what success looks like when they're in their 20s. And it's usually, blonde hair, big premium grade A bolt-ons, a Lamborghini, yachts, all that stuff, right? And I had all that. I was partying. I owned a yacht. I had the friggin' Lamborghini. I did all that. The problem is that when you get those things, you realize that having them is not really that great. It was the process of getting them that was really the fun part, right? Once you have them, you're like, nah, this isn't that great. And so for me, I realized that as I got older, I was seeking fulfillment rather than simply entertaining myself, because those things that were exciting and entertaining, at the end of the day, they really weren't that fulfilling. And so I also realized I loved the journey. I loved the chase. I love making the money far more than having the money. And so I realized that if I just, dedicated myself to my work and put a mark in this world where, saying, I have helped people improve their financial situation despite and I'll just say it, the school system that literally is designed to keep children poor and make them employees. It's not designed to make you successful. It's designed for you to work for other people and make them successful. To go against the grain of the government. Government, again, they don't want you to save on taxes. They don't want you to make more money. They don't want any of this. The government, school, all this, everything they want for you is bad. Like, if you can't see that, you're living in a fantasy world. And so to do my part to change that for as many people as possible, that's what I want to do in this world. And the journey of doing that and also getting wealthy doing that is the fun part for me. So the me today, I have a family. I remarried my ex-wife. I see my son every day. I create amazing things. I'm a creator. I'm an educator. And so just doing that is good enough for me. And I realized I don't have to spend all this crazy money on Lamborghinis and yachts because it doesn't really do for me what I thought it would. And I think when you start getting in your 30s, every man will begin to have this realization, and the quicker you have it, the better your life will be.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So there's so much to kind of touch on there. I wanted to take it back to the beginning, man, of when did entrepreneurship kind of come knocking on your door and say, hey, Dan Henry, you gotta come with me?
Oh yeah. Great question. So way before I became a millionaire, I was delivering pizza for 7 years. And one day I get this ticket for a guy named Gupta. Gupta is the guy you did not want to get a delivery for. Everyone knew that. It was Chicago. It was negative 16 degrees, negative 52 with wind chill, record year. I get in the car. I drive to Gupta's place at the very edge of our delivery zone. Gupta lived on the 15th floor of a building that had a broken elevator, which means I had to walk up 15 flights of stairs, deliver this man his pizza, walk down 15 flights of stairs, and drive back to the store in negative 16 degree weather, get a 2-liter of soda, drive all the way back, walk all the way up 15 flights of stairs. And I give this man his soda and he stiffs me. And that was the day I realized that I was sick and tired of relying on the generosity of others to pay my bills. And I needed to figure out how to make money on demand. And the only way to do that I could figure out was becoming an entrepreneur. And so it really was the idea of freedom, not just financial freedom, but the idea that I was responsible for my income. And if I worked hard, I would make more money. If I didn't work hard, I didn't perform, I would make less money. And that's scary to most people, but to me, that's a lot better than whether I work hard or not, I only make this much money because I'm an employee. And so that's what led me to becoming an entrepreneur, which eventually made me a multimillionaire. So thank you, Gupta.
Yeah, Gupta for sure. Shout out to Gupta.
Still
So
a day.
at what point at that journey, man, at what point of that journey did you come to know your wife?
Well, I met my wife, like a decade ago. I was on Tinder, and it was my first time on Tinder. I hadn't had a girlfriend in a year and a half. My friends were worried about me. And they were like, you got to get a girlfriend, man. You've been single for too long. And so I get on Tinder, and I really wasn't into it. But I thought, well, I haven't had any love or, anything like that in a year and a half. So might as well. So I get on there, and one of the first swipes I make is this beautiful Turkish girl. And I noticed she was sitting in a law office. So I send her a message and I say, hey, what kind of lawyer are you? And she responds back like, oh my gosh, that's the best question I've got. And I'm like, what questions do you normally get? She was like, don't worry about it. And we started talking. We went out on some dates. And eventually we got married. And if I didn't put myself out there on that friggin' Tinder app, I wouldn't have got married. And it was funny because my friends were like, people are using this app to get laid. You just swipe and you get laid, right? people just want to have sex. And I go back to them and I go, this app doesn't work. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I got married, but it was a joke. And so we ended up being together for 5 years. Things got rough. We were young, didn't know how to manage it, got divorced for, 4 years, I think. And then, I had my Jordan Belfort yacht Lamborghini phase, realized it sucked, realized what I really wanted was my family. And then I worked my ass off for a year to get my family back. I probably followed up with my wife over 314 times, if I counted correctly. And after that many follow-ups, she finally said yes, and we got remarried. And for anybody that tells you no means no, that's BS. No means you haven't said yes yet. Okay. And that look, you can turn people's hearts and minds around if you work at it. My advice is, if you want to change someone's opinion of you, don't convince them to change their opinion of you. Show up and be the person that you want to be known as, and their opinion will naturally change.
Yo, real quick, we'll get back to the content in just a minute. I just have a quick question for you. How are you showing up as a family leader right now? There's a crazy statistic out there that 50% of marriages in the US alone are ending in divorce. That means that half of all families formed are being broken, torn apart from the inside out. And what I've learned about divorce is that no one ever wins. From custody battles to never-ending resentment for the person you once exchanged vows with, to the trauma it causes the kids that they have to deal with well into their adult years. While there are many reasons why these things occur, I believe that the majority of them happen because of the family man's lack of leadership. God called you to be the leader, and if your wife and kids don't want to follow your lead, who do you think needs to make a change? The problem is that we've been conditioned to believe that we have to play this family leader game alone. We have to be the lone wolf that has to figure everything out on our own. Well, let me give you a hard dose of reality. The lone wolf will never lead the pack, which means that if you want to lead your family well, doing it on your own may not be the best decision. You see, when you look at some of the most successful men out there that have their family life locked in, they are not doing it alone. They have a tribe of good, solid men who are also family leaders, and together they hold each other accountable and challenge one another to become a better man, husband, and father. Iron always sharpens iron, and the modern day world is working hard to make us forget that. When we as men are siloed and alone, that's when we are at our weakest, which is why it's so easy to fall into vices and distractions that keep us from being the leader our family deserves, which is why I created Alpha Dad Tribe, an online brotherhood of family leaders who are following a battle-tested blueprint to become the type of leader their wife and kids actually want to follow. Tribe is unlike any men's community out there, as we don't throw you into a Facebook group where you get bombarded by ads and distractions. We take you to a place away from distractions that allow you to focus on you getting the results that you want. The roadmap is laid out for you every step of the way, so you're never confused about what's going on and what to do next. I also host exclusive live calls and trainings in order to continue bringing you the most up-to-date tactics and strategies on family leadership. Last but not least, even though leading a family is serious business and it can be extremely difficult, it doesn't mean that the growth has to be boring. You see, inside of Alpha Dad Tribe, we reward action takers and contributors by gamifying the entire experience. Anytime you pour into your brothers, you get points that level you up. Each time you reach a new level, you unlock exclusive courses and unique prizes, which makes it an enjoyable experience that you're not going to find in many men's groups out there. We are getting ready to open up Tribe here in a matter of weeks. So if you're tired of doing the lone wolf thing and you want to get plugged into a tribe of good, solid family leaders, go to alphadadconsulting.com/tribe and sign up for the waitlist. This will ensure that you get notified as soon as membership spots open up. Again, that's alphadadconsulting.com/tribe. All right, my fellow Alpha Dad, I'll see you on the inside. Now let's get back to the show. Looking at it from the outside in, during the time that you guys were split, somebody would be looking at that, they'd be like, man, Dan's living the lifestyle, right? He's living the lifestyle of the rich and famous and all that. What were you feeling internally, man? That separation, what was eating at you to want to to want to get back with her, you know, and to want to, or was that even in your mind at that time? Did you think it was over and like there wasn't going to be a possibility anymore?
No, I thought about my wife every day, and usually when I was out on a yacht or something with a bunch of, well, I'll just say it, a bunch of bimbos. I don't know any other way to say it. You know, there are certain girls out there who are wife material and bimbos. That's you can tell me I'm an asshole, but that's just the way it is, you know. And I would constantly think, wow, my ex-wife at that point would love to see this place. And I kept thinking that. And then, you know, I would go and have fun and drink and party to get that out of my mind, along with all the other things that I've made mistakes with in my life. And so what I realized was that I really wasn't necessarily into doing those things. I was doing them because they served as a coping mechanism for, you know, my internal pain and trauma. And also I thought at the time it was it was the lifestyle other people wanted to live. And so I had to live the lifestyle in order to, you know, attract them. But what I realized was that people who want that lifestyle generally don't have a lot of heart. They don't have a lot of determination. They don't have a lot of money. They're just kind of like college douchebags. And so, you know, it was just a huge strategic misstep on my part. And when I kind of came back to reality and I got my family back together, I started attracting, you know, higher quality people because I became a higher quality person. And so I did think about it a lot. And then one day I just, you know, I woke up and I'll just be honest, I woke up, there's bottles laying everywhere in my $3 million penthouse. You know, I'm like disrespecting my home. There's girls laying on the couches. My buddies are passed out. Like, it was just this, I'm like in my 30s and it's just this frat boy BS. And I'm like, what? And, you know, and then like my kids coming over at noon and I'm like, I got to clean all this up and get these friggin' girls out of here and all that. Like, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, this is stupid. You know, this is not the person. And here's what really did it for me. I thought if I was on my deathbed and I had hours to live, would I look back and go, I really am happy with who I was. I am okay with who I was and what I did. And I said to myself, I wouldn't be able to say that. And so I thought, well, what is you know, like sometimes people talk about what they want to do in life. And I find it's a lot easier to find out what you don't want to do, what you don't want to happen. And then what you want to happen becomes so much easier to figure out. So I thought, okay, what is the number one thing in life I don't want to happen besides being eaten by a shark? And that is dying while having immense regret about who I was and how I showed up on this planet. That is the number one thing I don't want to happen. So then I thought, okay, well, that makes it easy to understand what I need to change. I need to change who I am and I need to become a better person. And so I just, like that, I just made the shift and I decided, all right, I gotta be different. I gotta be better. And that's where like some of the worst advice you can ever get is you're good enough. Love yourself. Don't change. Be okay with yourself. That's BS. What if you suck? What if you're a terrible person? Imagine if you said to Hitler, be okay with yourself, accept yourself, love yourself. That would be the worst possible advice ever. The truth is, guys, sometimes we suck. It's just the way it is. Sometimes we are terrible, terrible people. Sometimes we are not good enough. All right? Period. And you know what you should do in that case? You shouldn't love yourself. You shouldn't accept yourself. You should friggin' change. Period. Because if you truly loved yourself, you would change yourself into a better person. Period. So this acceptance, self-love trend that we did not have back in the 90s and 2000s, I think it's toxic, it's BS, and it's something we should not push.
Yeah, the one I hate the most, man, is like that's just the way I am, right? Like you'll hear people say, "Oh, it's just the way I am," man. It's just
no, it's what you've accepted. It's what you've accepted. You've accepted that you are the way that you are. You have not put in the effort to change it because you're lazy, and somebody with blue hair told you that you should just practice self-love. So you just stop trying. That's the truth.
Yeah. So speaking about blue hair and you know, some of that stuff, Uh, School, man. This is something that you've taken a strong stance on.
Yeah.
In terms of the public school system. I know you love education. I'm with you there. Like I love education, being educated and learning new things. But the system of school and public school and going to college, because you yourself went to college, right? Place where dreams come true and all that stuff that they always promise, right? So can we speak on when that kind of came up for you in terms of how you started viewing school as like, man, like this is not the system I want to raise my son in?
I think you're a bad parent if you send your kid to school is far more accurate than you're a bad parent if you don't send your kids to school. Think about this. John D. Rockefeller, who founded and funded the General Board of Education, said, I am not in the business of making a nation of thinkers. I'm in the business of making a nation of workers. School is designed to turn you into an employee, to make others rich, not to make you rich, not to make you successful. That's why everything is programmed in school. There are school bells in school because during the Industrial Revolution, they needed to program kids to come to the assembly line in the factory when the bell rang. So they put them in schools so that kids would get conditioned to be factory workers. I mean, think about this. You have to raise your hand to take a piss. How disgustingly twisted is it that you have to raise your hand and wait for the 22-year-old teacher with blue hair who's dealing with all kinds of childhood trauma, which is why she has blue hair, to notice you and allow you to go to the bathroom? It's messed up. And so the propaganda that we serve in this country is stay in school, kids. School is cool. It's all propaganda. There's zero difference between that and what they do in North Korea. And our parents in this country, they believe it, and so they send their kids to school. Their kids go to school. They have a bad day. The teacher tells them, chop it off, become a girl. You don't have to accept things the way they are. You can change it. We'll inject hormones into you. We'll call you something different. We'll force other people to call you something different. And if they don't call you something different, they're bad people. And it's just this incredibly toxic, twisted space that your kid is being programmed in 8 hours a day. So to me, you are a far better parent today if you keep your kid out of school than you put your kid in school.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree with you there. I'm doing the same thing. My wife and I, we talked about that prior to even having kids. We're like, man, yeah, we're going to homeschool them. I remember, I was working at an Apple store, right? And I was a trainer. So I was teaching classes all the time and, in that noisy store. And one of the things that I would do is I would facilitate field trips for schools, neighboring communities, like a community program type of thing. Mm-hmm. And we'd have kids coming in from public school. And dude, like 30 kids, and they're running around amok. Like I couldn't control them. Like I couldn't get them to sit still or to listen or to do the movie project we were doing. And then I get these homeschool kids that come in. It was like 10 of them that came in. They came in, man, and they shook my hand. They're like, "Hey, how you doing, Mr. G? Nice to meet you. What are we doing today? Can you tell us about what we're gonna do?" And just super like well mannered. I saw the dichotomy of that, and I'm like, "What's the difference here?" Right?
Well, I mean, back in the day, school was driven by the parents and the community. Mary Shelley, Beethoven, these are kids that succeeded early in life because they had good education from their parents and their community, and they weren't in the toxic cesspool of public school. And so, if you look back at the data historically, I'm sorry, but school sucks. It's not effective. It isn't cool. And there are far better ways to educate a child and a young adult than sending them to the cesspool that is public school.
I'm with you 100%, bro. So let's talk a little bit about your young hero, man, little man Bruce, becoming a father. What was that experience like for you, man? You're in the delivery room, you get the news, you get to hold him for the first time. What's going through your mind?
Well, my journey to becoming a father was absolutely terrifying because when my son was born, there was a problem. And he was in the ICU, or the NICU, for 2 weeks, and we didn't know if he was going to survive or not. So imagine being a brand new parent, first child, and the first 2 weeks of your life as a parent, you're constantly looking at your baby on a ventilator. The ventilator is making the baby breathe, and you don't know minute to minute, day to day, if you're going to be a father in the next 10 minutes. Like you might not be a father anymore. Now, my son pulled through. But that's how my journey started. And, being a father for me, especially the first few years, was very difficult because, my family growing up, we weren't like a white picket fence, JC Penney photos type of family. I grew up in Florida, so it was like, just wasn't like that, and so I didn't really have a good role model of that, nice, again, white picket fence, fatherly type of deal. My dad always was fun. My dad always would play games with me and do fun stuff. And I didn't really know what to do with my kid because he's just this little blob of flesh, But as he got older and I began seeing that I could teach him things and I could show him things, I got a lot better because that's what I love to do. I love to teach people things. And so we never put him in school. We never exposed him to any of that type of stuff. He basically doesn't watch any TV. He barely uses a phone, only for educational games. He's 5 years old, and homeschool wise, he's in second grade. He's doing things that a 5-year-old should not be able to do. Why? Well, because we never, ever introduced him to the idea that he shouldn't be able to do it at 5. We just never put that in his head. And if you look back, there were like 8-year-olds back in like Europe hundreds of years ago that were writing political essays and, drafting friggin' congressional documents and stuff. And I believe it's because at that time, the culture was to treat children like small adults, not like children. And so I truly believe if you do not introduce a limit into your child's brain, that child will not have that limit. And so that's the approach I take with my son.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of those limiting beliefs are instilled during that age too, man. Like I remember, like the trauma that happens between like the ages of 1 and 7. Like we're still dealing with that as adult men sometimes,
Well, you got to think. Your kids are hanging out with other kids who have terrible parents. Parents that do not teach their children how to properly navigate conflict, how to succeed, how to be smarter and more efficient, how to make good choices. Most parents, I hate to say it, they're terrible. So even if you do a good job, when you send your kid into a group of children who their parents didn't do a good job, you're severely affecting your ability to do a good job. And that's why I don't send my son to public school, because I don't want to undo all of the good work that my wife and I have done. I want it to sustain. And so we don't send him to a toxic place where he's going to learn horrible, horrible habits and values. And that place, that number one place, is public school.
Yeah, my good friend Matt Beaudreau, who runs like educational programs and that kind of thing, he's been dealing with kids for a long time. He likes to say that, you're not raising kids to be people; they're just people with less practice, right? Like that a lot of the times we're looking at kids and we think that they're incompetent or they're not capable, but man, they're super resilient, bro. And then they can learn things, they can advance much quicker than we give them credit for. And we're always looking at, and we're playing the comparison game with what we see in grade school, and grades. And like, I mean, think about the F that we get in school, right? Like failure. Like, dude, we learn from failure every freaking day. So like, why would that be a bad thing? So yeah, man, it's interesting.
Again, because most people don't know how to view failure as the data required for success. So they teach their children horrible habits, and then their children teach their children horrible habits. And that's why most people don't have the life they want. I mean, if we want to be real, most people are fat, have terrible relationships with the important people in their life, and don't make enough money. That's your average person, especially in the United States. So if your average person is fat, poor, and has terrible relationships, and they teach their children how to live, their children are going to be fat, poor, and have terrible relationships. And that's how the majority of society is. So why would I send my child to a place where he's going to learn how to be fat, poor, and have terrible relationships? I don't. I keep him at home where he's going to learn how to be healthy, how to be wealthy, and how to be happy, period. So, I'm not going to, most parents use public school as a daycare for their children. And sure, if I was lazy, I would do the same. But I work extra hard so my wife doesn't have to work so that she can homeschool the kid. So if you're a man out there, I'm going to lay it all out on the line for you. Okay. You have to make money. Inflation is out of control. $100,000 in the 70s got you pretty much whatever life you wanted within reason. Today, you're living paycheck to paycheck on $100,000. You can barely pay the bills. You need to make more money, which means you need to make yourself more valuable, because people that make money are valuable. People that don't make money are expendable. So if you say, well, I have 30 years experience laying brick. No, you don't. You have 30 years experience settling for laying brick. It only takes a couple weeks to learn how to lay brick. The guy that made the money on that building that you laid brick for, he used his mouth. He convinced somebody to give him money to build the brick, to hire you. And then he went off and sold that property for a huge profit. Why? Because he acquired skills like networking, speaking, persuasion, selling, marketing. These are the things you need to learn. You need to make more money. So I'm going to say this one more time, for all the men out there, for all the men in the back, you got to make money, bro. Get your ass up, learn some skills. If you're fat, get in the gym. Get in the gym. You shouldn't be fat, okay? You can't defend your family. You can't play with your son. You look like crap. Don't accept yourself. Get in the gym. If you're poor, look, it sucks. I've been poor, but you know how I got rich? I learned skills that made me more valuable than your average person, and therefore I made more money. Pick up a book. Stop watching Netflix. Stop going golfing with your buddies when you can barely freaking pay the bills, and work your ass off to become a high value man. And then you can demand high value experiences. You can demand high value money, and you can live a much better life. Stop screwing around and get your shit together, period. Because you could kind of be lazy in the 70s. You can't do that anymore. It's getting real out there. Do something about it.
That is definitely essential for us to hear, especially right now, with everything that's going on.
And I'll say this. If you just listened to what I said and you were offended by it, you're a soft dude. You're a byproduct of this soft, emasculate society. You need to man up, all right? You need to be more masculine. You need to grow thicker skin. And you need to friggin' realize that you suck right now. And if you work hard, you cannot suck. And I say that because I've been there, and I had to do the same thing. I had to put my pride aside, and I had to learn how to not suck. And if you're offended by this right now, I can tell you, you suck.
There you have it, guys. Got to wake up. One of the things that I've admired about you, man, is I've gotten a chance to see kind of from the sidelines on YouTube and all that, your growth and your advancement as an entrepreneur. And you've had the privilege, man, of being in these circles with some of the big names, like Tony Robbins on stages, or Russell Brunson, Myron Golden, Grant Cardone. Like, what I was curious about, man, is being in those circles, what are some of the underlying kind of key character traits, if you have 2 or 3 that you've noticed or you've picked up and you've adopted from these individuals that we look at as like larger than life, and you know what I mean? Like, but I know that they're just men just like us, like, and they have their flaws and they have their, but there's character traits that they have, that they possess, that you've taken and adopted.
Well, this is going to be super controversial, but women are generally valued by their beauty and their loyalty. Men are valued by what they can bring to the world. And so when you're a man and you haven't made your mark on the world, you haven't accomplished anything of real notability, you have to pay for the company and the advice of other men that have done big things. What's great is when you finally do big things, those same men will welcome you with open arms into their circle. They won't charge you, and you'll exponentially level up because of those relationships. You mentioned guys like Myron Golden and Russell Brunson. There's people like Alex Hormozy, like these huge people who when I was poor, I thought it would be impossible to speak to people like this. But when I made a significant mark in my industry, I built multi-million-dollar companies. Guess what? I played golf with Myron several times. I can call up these guys right now, and they don't charge me anything. I have bought things from them in the past, but they're not going to charge me just to call them on the phone and have a conversation and run something by them. Why? Because I have contributed. And when you can contribute, you can get in the circle. And when you can get in the circle, you can soar. So the biggest thing that you should be focusing on is how can you contribute? How can you make a major impact in the world so much that other men that have also made an impact will notice you and say, hey, you don't belong there. You belong over here. Come here. Let's figure out how to make this really go to the moon. That is the key.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos of you, man, that you have on your channel is the interview between you and Myron. Because dude, it was like a master class, right? Like the knowledge and everything that he dropped in that like hour and a half video or so that you guys had. But what was really cool to see, man, is we got to be, as audience, we got to be just kind of in the room, kind of eavesdropping on a conversation between two longtime friends. That's how it felt. Yeah. And he's never shied away from saying that he is a man of faith and a man of a Christian and all that. I was just curious, man, have you guys had conversations of that nature off camera? Where do you fall on that in terms of God, believing in a higher power, anything? I don't think I've ever heard you state anything like that.
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. Yes, we've had multiple conversations like that. I used to be not a man of faith, more on the agnostic or atheist side, but I currently am a man of faith. It's not the exact faith that Myron or most people in America have. And unfortunately, most people in the United States, I'm just going to say it, are very ignorant. They don't research things. They get all of their information about religions and cultures and people from CNN, propaganda, movies and TVs that portray people as something that they're completely not. They come up with these completely inaccurate facts that just came out of nowhere. And then they base their opinion on that. And, it's hard enough for me to teach people how to grow their business. I don't have time to teach them how to not be ignorant of other cultures and religions. So while I do have a religion, I don't mention it that often because I already know how people are going to feel about it, because they're just completely uneducated when it comes to it. So I will say, yes, I am a man of God, but it's not something I talk about a lot because I don't feel like having to educate people on how life works outside of the United States and the Western world.
No, I respect that. I respect that a lot, man. Something that you mentioned in that interview with Myron is that, I remember you telling him that you had retired from being a business coach in that video.
Yeah.
Right. And you said it with a lot of conviction and a lot of certainty. And now you've kind of come back to this space. What sort of caused you to come back, man, and say like, this is what I want to do. This is where I belong.
Well, I made millions as a business consultant, and I got bored with it and I wanted to do something different. And in that journey, I realized a very profound thing. It is very rare for a person to go from near poverty to becoming so good at something that they make millions of dollars. To think that you can do that all over again is a bit presumptuous. It's a bit arrogant. And I realized that when you're good at something, it usually feels boring to you because you've mastered it. You're good at it. So of course it's going to be boring. The things that you're not good at are a lot more exciting. And so when I tried some other things, I wasn't good at them. I didn't make the same money or impact I was making teaching business growth. And so I went back to it, and I went back to it still semi-retired. We have a membership site now. I really don't do personal coaching. And if I do, I always take equity in the company that I consult, which means I make way more for my time and effort. Because, I was having businesses that were telling me that they paid, 10 to 50 grand to my company for consulting that I had helped. And now they're doing like 3 million a month. And in my head, I'm like, well, I got a horrible deal out of this. So I started doing, partnerships. And like last month, we had one client who issued us a check for $53,000 just in revenue share from our cut of the business growth they experienced from our consulting. So that's what I've shifted to. So I've gone back to it, but I found a better, more efficient way and more profitable way for me to do it. And the moral of the story here is that boring is good. If something is boring, it means you've mastered it. And that's exactly what you should stick to. And you should prioritize your impact and your financial gain over your entertainment. Boring is good. Boring scales. Boring makes you rich.
Yeah, you get that shiny object syndrome, and you want to go try something different, try something new.
Yeah.
Especially, I think, as an entrepreneur, when you're like an idea guy, right? And you're always thinking and you're always learning new things and getting exposed to new things. It makes it very like enticing to want to chase that thing, right?
Well, the biggest mistake that self-made millionaires make is they find something that makes them a lot of money and then they do something else. And I made that mistake too. And so for anybody out there on the come up, don't make that mistake. It's a big one.
So for anybody out there on the come up, if they're balancing the family and the business side, right, and they're in the season of building right now, what advice would you give them to turn off the entrepreneurial mind so that they could be a present father, a present, husband, so that they don't have to undergo something similar to that what you experienced?
Well, I will say this. When it comes to work-life balance, there is no balance in the beginning. Once you build a plane, the plane can fly through the air and get from point A to point B in hours. But it took months to build that plane, working on it every single day for that plane to be able to do what it does. So in the beginning, when you're building a business, you do have to accept that there will not be a balance. You will be working on that business more than spending time with your family. And if you look back throughout history, look, when we were in the caveman days, the man went out all day searching for food and hunting lions and bears and stuff. And the woman stayed home and took care of the cave, right? So as we go through life, we continuously get this idea that we're supposed to spend all this time with our family, and we should. And if we can get our business to a place where it runs without us, which is the dream, we absolutely can. But we do have to accept that to some degree in the beginning when you're building, there's not going to be as much balance as when it's built. And so what I would say is, number one, accepting that fact for yourself and explaining that fact to your family. And then the second thing I would say is understand that when it's good, it's good. When it's done, it's done. And end the day at a certain time. Like I try to end my day around 6. I get up at 5. I work till about 3. I go to the gym and my day's over at 6. And I try to stick to that, even if I have something, going on. And so what I would say is, in order to maintain a little bit of balance in the beginning and a lot of balance after you've built what you've built, understand that things could always be better. They could always be better. But if you spend your entire life trying to make things better instead of accepting where they are and just working on it again tomorrow, you will miss out on the things that truly matter. If you've ever seen that study, 5 Regrets of the Dying, the number one regret that men said on their deathbed was that they wished they lived more life. They wished that they went out and took trips with their buddies and went hunting and went to amazing places, spent more time with their family, et cetera, et cetera. And so I will say this, it is important to understand that you could always grow more and you could always grow less. Pick a time, stop at that time, And every couple months, every 3 months, try to go do something fun. Try to go do something that's pure life. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a crazy expense to get on a plane and go to South Africa and go hunting or some crazy stuff like that. It can be as simple as going to a park and just spending time with your family and having a picnic. But make time for that. Currently, my business runs great. I have a COO. I end at 6. I take my family to we travel almost every weekend. I live in Costa Rica, so there's always a place to go. I'm going to take them to Dubai for an entire month here coming up. So I try to do more of that because we ain't getting any younger, man. So, you got to fit that stuff in. But at the same time, you do have to accept that in the very beginning, it will be difficult, will be more difficult to do that.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's great advice. You mentioned Hormozy a little earlier, and I wanted to get your take on the just from an online marketer perspective, right? With his book launch this last year, and how he gave away all that value and that course at the end for free. There's a lot of like marketers that I heard that were kind of upset that he would just give so much things for free. I was just wanted to get your take on that, man. What do you think about that in terms of that? Like, you felt like that has affected your business in any way, shape, or form?
If you're a marketer and you were offended by the fact that Hormozy gave away a bunch of stuff for free, you're not a very good marketer because you don't even understand what he was doing. The truth is, Hormozy, and I love the guy. He's a friend of mine. He's super smart, but let's be real. When you work with his company, they take a very large cut of your revenue. So when he says, I don't have anything to sell you, which is, something he doesn't say anymore, or when people say that, like, you got to understand that, yes, he is giving away courses that most people would sell for thousands for free. But if you decide to work with his company, what you will end up paying them is 100 times more, 1,000 times more than what you would pay for a course. Now, yes, you'll likely experience way more business growth. And so in the end, you'll make more as a result, which is the entire point of what he does at acquisition.com. And it's a great strategy. But you have to understand that his marketing is giving things away for free to get you to a certain point so that when you're at that certain point, you can work with his company and give them a large chunk of your revenue. So he's not actually giving away things for free in the sense that he's just handing it out for no reason. It is a marketing strategy, and it's a great marketing strategy. And so if you're a marketer and you think that you're offended by that, you're an idiot. Like, you're a total moron because you literally just missed the entire strategy and you call yourself a marketer. You should hang your head in shame. You should be ashamed of yourself for not understanding that. And you should probably get a job at McDonald's. Okay. That's how I feel about that.
I love that, man. I just saw his post yesterday too. He was investing in school, man. School.com.
Yeah.
I
I actually invested in school like a year and a half ago. So it was nice to see that. I think my net worth just went up as a result. So thank you, Hormozy.
That's awesome, bro. Man. All right, man. I want to get you out of here in time. I want to be respectful of your time. Last question I want to hit you with, man. This is the question I always ask all my guests at the end is, if you had to narrow it down to just a few traits, in your opinion, what makes a dad a good family leader?
What makes a dad a good family leader is the same exact thing that will get you ripped and jacked in the gym, and it's the same thing that will make you rich. 3 habits and 3 habits only. Number 1 is delayed gratification, meaning you're willing to put in a large amount of effort for a large amount of time with 0 reward, knowing that if you put in the time and the effort long enough, you'll get a big reward. This means working out for months without looking different, only to realize that one day you look pretty good. This means working on your business without making a ton of money, only to realize that you've figured something out and now the money comes rushing in. This means working on your marriage and being that leader and being patient for a period of time and not seeing the respect that you should be getting from your family for a period of time, but sticking to it. And then eventually that turns around and you get more respect from your family. The second habit is consistency. Now, most people don't understand what consistency is. They think it's just doing things consistently. What it means is that when you set an intention to do something, you do it even if it's a bad time, even if the conditions are not ideal, even if something comes up, you figure out a way. Why? Because that is life. Things always come up in life. That is a part of life. So most people, they say, well, I'm pretty consistent, but sometimes things get in the way. Or I do it when I can, life's tough. Yeah, well, great. Life's tough, bro. That's life. You want a different life? Go to a different planet. Oh, that's right. You can't. Okay, so here's where you are. You're stuck here. Things come up. You deal with it and you do it anyway. You got to get up at 5 a.m. to get to the gym because, you got a day full. Get your ass up at 5 a.m. and get your tubby butt to the gym. Okay, period. Right? That's consistency. And then the third thing is focus. And again, most people completely misunderstand what focus is. Focus is not concentrating. Focus is not what you choose to do. Focus is what you choose not to do. Focus is when you tell your friends, no, I can't have lunch. No, I can't go out. When you don't watch that new Netflix show that just came out and you can't wait to see what happened to Sally. Okay. Focus is saying, I'm not going to do all these things that are meaningless, so I have more time and concentration to do the thing that is meaningful. That is focus. Delayed gratification, consistency, focus. If you can master those three things, you will get ripped, you will get jacked, you will get rich, and you will be a better leader in your family. And the great part about that is any other thing you want to do in life, those three habits will make you successful at them, period.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's awesome. Yeah, bro. All right, man. Where can we go to support you, bro? Where can we support the work that you're doing?
Go to my YouTube channel. I'm really working hard on that. YouTube.com/Dan Henry. Subscribe. I try to put out really great content. And if you're looking for more business growth, or you're looking to figure out how to get more clients in your business, grow as an entrepreneur, check out getclients.com. And that's about it, man.
Cool, man. And I'll link all that stuff in the show notes below, guys. So, Dan Henry, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Thank you for checking out this episode. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dan Henry. Do me a favor, if you got any value from this, please share it with another family, man. If you want to get in touch with Dan, I've linked up everything in the show notes below. All right, my fellow Alpha Dad, I'll catch you on the next one.
1, 2, 3 actions I didn't meet. 4, 5, 6 fear and silence begin to mix. 7, 8, 9 the thought of being emotionless started taking over my mind.